What is up, everyone? It is AG Reviews. My name is Alan. I am back at it again here today with another episode of the Scene and Screen podcast. I'm coming at it by myself today, so this is going to be my first solo podcast. So if anyone is watching and wants to, comment, and we could have some chats, even if you're not here on screen with me. So I kind of I dropped a video yesterday. Essentially talking about the changes that I wanted to make on my channel and what I wanted to do when it came to content going forward. I've been having a little bit of burnout lately. I can't lie to myself about it. And not even just with content creation, just in life in general. So I kind of want to, going forward, streamline what I'm doing on my channel. I love reviewing movies. But I also love doing live streams. I have, kind of figured that out in the last couple months, going on Console Creators with Chainsaw and all of my buddies over there, doing a couple shows with Darren. This is kind of the format that I really enjoy doing and the one I have the most fun with. So going forward, I'm kind of going to incorporate, what I was doing with the Scene and Screen podcast before, where we kind of talk about movie news and topics and stuff like that, and then also integrate my reviews into the live show. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing going forward. So I hope you guys, go on this journey with me and, enjoy the ride, right? So what's up, Medice? How's it going? Hope you're feeling all right. So let's get started. Essentially, I have not done any reviews in the last 3 weeks, I want to say. My last published review that I did was for The Conjuring, The Last Rites, the newest one, which I obviously was not a fan of. So, we've had some pretty polarizing releases in the last couple weeks, to say the least. So I'm going to start with the one that I think I have the most in common with my opinion with the general public in general. And that is The Long Walk. This was the Stephen King adaptation, one of the non-horror Stephen King adaptations that came out. Essentially, if you haven't seen the previews or anything for it, it is a story about a post-apocalyptic future, where a fascist government essentially is controlling everything, and every year they put people into a game where they have to walk against other contestants, and it's one person from each state, and they have to walk basically until only one person remains. And they consistently get knocked off the chessboard. Overall, I'll just start right off. I absolutely love this movie. This is definitely one of my favorite films of the year so far. I would be very, very shocked if it's not in my top 5 before the year is over. I really, really enjoyed this film. I thought it was emotional, very relevant to a lot of the issues that are going on nowadays. To kind of, there's not really a lot of negative that I'm going to say about this film. So to kind of kick off my positives with the film, I really feel like the two lead characters of Ray and Pete, they were played by Cooper Hoffman was Ray, and then David Johnson played Pete, and they were just fantastic in the lead role. I felt like they, within their relationship and their chemistry, created a bromance that you could get behind, and had a very strong bond for essentially being complete strangers to one another when this film starts. And they pretty much carry the movie the whole way. But everybody, the whole entire cast, does a great job. I feel like every single person, every character comes to play. And what this film does so well to me is, with the concept that they, start the movie off with, it essentially, that a lot of these characters are going to die. That you're not going to see a lot are going to fall off very quickly. And then, we're only going to end up with one by the very end. And at first they kind of make you only care about the two leads, and then kind of make you not care about much outside of that, any of the characters outside of that. But they do a good job where essentially every single time that somebody is knocked off the board, every single time that someone goes away, they put a spotlight on one of the other, side characters that you haven't really spent a lot of time with. And they just give you some of the most like tragic backstories that you'll ever see. And it makes you want to root for everybody involved um, in the game. And it just makes it all the more emotionally devastating when they die because they really get you to care for these characters, and then once they're taken off the board, it's like a gut punch. And you would think in a normal film setting that repeating the same plot beats over and over and over would get stale, but this film does a really really good job of making that work and never letting up on the tension. They have great moments of levity, and like I said, there's a real bromance and a brotherhood that is created in these group of guys. But there's always that looming threat, right? And there's always exhaustion coming into play, and just all these different things that make this an edge of your seat film. When I don't know if necessarily when I was like I heard the idea of this film that I thought that's what we were going to get. So I was very, very happy with the film. I kind of took some notes. Like I said, the performances are great, the emotional impact, the weight of everything, the atmosphere that they create, and like the world that they create here. I thought was breathtaking. I'm someone who I think when you get like I know this isn't an original idea; it's technically an adaptation, but when you get such a rich world like this, I am a little more pushing towards, hey, maybe we could see a little bit more in this universe and see what happens. I don't want to spoil anything about it, but obviously some stuff happens at the end of the film that, leaves things up and sets things up to get kind of crazy. So I would love to see it explored more. But if this is all we get, I absolutely adored this film. So I'm not going to complain at all. I'm not really familiar with the book, so like I've seen the faithfulness to the book, a bit of like a topic of contention of some people who didn't really like it. So I can't really comment on that myself just because I've never read the book. But what they delivered here was incredible. So if it's not close to the book or it is, I couldn't care less because the movie that we got was great. So I really enjoyed what we got here. I know that JT Molnar wrote the adaptation script for it, and he was the guy who wrote and directed Strange Darling last year, which obviously was one of my favorite films of the year. So I really liked what he did. I thought the nuance and everything involved with it was done really, really well. And then kind of just to wrap up, talking about this film, I really felt like the themes that they explore in this movie are so relevant even today. I want to say he wrote this it was in the 60s or 70s. And it feels just as important and, relevant to today's climate in our country than ever before. So to me, it feels like a timeless story. I feel like you can drop it in any era in our country, and it's going to just be as effective. Obviously, it came out the week that Charlie Kirk died, so it was a lot of rhetoric and a lot of stuff that was going on that was kind of in relation to this film, and I felt like its message of banding together and creating brotherhood, creating bonds, and bringing for a more hopeful future was really well done. And it impacted me on an emotional level that when I walked into the theater, I just was not expecting. So, yeah, the more I talk about this movie, the more I kind of fester on it and I let it sit. I loved it. I really did. I thought it was fantastic, and like I said, I would be very surprised if it doesn't finish in my top 5 by the end of the year. Shit, even top 3, really. I mean, there's got to be a couple good movies that come out that dethrone it in order for it not to end up there. So, really, really enjoyed it. Negatives wise, I can't really think of much besides, some people I've seen have had kind of some issues with the pacing. Like I said, I think that the narrative, the way it's kind of structured, where it's pretty much every person who stops walking or gets under that 3 miles per hour gets killed. So it's a bit repetitive, and the pacing in the beginning, obviously, because a lot of people kind of have to get off the board first before we start deep diving into a lot of the characters we actually like. It can feel a little sluggish at the beginning, but yeah, overall, I mean, I wouldn't even say that. I've heard that criticism. I don't even know if I really agree with it. To me, this was almost damn near a perfect movie. So yeah, for me, I loved it. It's in contention as one of my favorite films of the year. It's like right now, my top 3 is Sinners, Weapons, and The Long Walk. And honestly, the more rewatches that I have of this film, it could end up number 1. That's how good it was to me. It can definitely finish in the top spot. So we'll see how the rest of the year plays out. But I absolutely adored this film. So yeah, so I don't want to rant on it too much, and it's not like there's a lot to really talk about that's super controversial or in depth. I mean, without spoiling, obviously, I could have a conversation with spoilers about that movie a lot longer, but I don't want to get into spoilers or anything if no one's seen it, if you're watching it or anything. So I'm going to move on. We're going to kind of, like I said, there's 4 movies that I saw since the last time I posted a video, and I really feel like of the 4, that was the only one that I agree with, like the conscience out there, like what everyone actually thinks of the film. That's the only one I agree with. So we're going to move on to the next one, and we're going to talk about Him. Justin Tipping's Him, by the way, not Jordan Peele. That is obviously, I feel like, a point of contention that has been happening with this film. This is not a Jordan Peele movie. He only produced it. His company produced it. I mean, I'm assuming he was involved with it too, but he didn't have any creative direction with the film or his hands in it. This is not his film. But I will say the reaction to this film has obviously been very, very negative online. And I got to say, I'm not really seeing it. I actually enjoyed this film, which I was very surprised because I didn't get to see it till Friday night. I didn't get to see it, on a Thursday night screening or early or anything like that. I went on Friday night. I went to go see it in IMAX because that was the only time that was kind of working for me. The film was not filmed for IMAX whatsoever, so I kind of feel like I wasted a little bit of money by seeing it that way. But that's how I ended up seeing it. And I enjoyed this film much more than I thought I would. I went into it seeing all the reviews, seeing all the negativity surrounding it. I saw a lot of what people I trust said about the movie. And I got to be honest, I disagree. I really enjoyed it. I really thought it was good. To kind of start off, and I know, Medice, you're a big football guy, and so I know you've been wanting to check it out. And I think you'll like it, man. I really do. There's a lot in there. A commentary about football that I thought was very relevant and very surprising. I didn't think it was going to talk about certain things like injuries and what these people do behind the scenes to keep their notoriety. I think you'll love it, man. I can't wait to have you see it and hear what you think about it. But yeah, so, I'll kind of get into my positives here about Him. Right off rip, the performances. The performances are fantastic, specifically Marlon Wayans as Isaiah White. I'm a millennial. I'm a 90s kid. I grew up on Marlon Wayans as the comedy guy, Shorty from Scary Movie. That's what I'm familiar with him. I've never seen him. I know he's had a few serious roles, but I've never seen him truthfully in any movies like that are on the more serious side and the dramatic side. And he gave such a great performance here as Isaiah White. He's kind of like a Tom Brady ripoff a little bit in the film. Like he's the GOAT essentially of the sport. They don't call it the NFL in the movie, so let's get that right off there. It's not the NFL, but it is the NFL, right? That's absolutely what it is. But they don't call it that. So he's basically like the Tom Brady. He's got like 8 or 9 championships. He's the best of all time. And the performance itself, it doesn't remind me in what he did in the movie. The performance itself, though, reminds me of kind of what Adam Sandler did in Uncut Gems, where he's known to be a comedian. He's known to be funny, and this is the role where he kind of comes in and says, "Hey, I'm more than that. I can do more than that." And I really loved what they did here. Tyreek Withers too, the guy, the main. I can't remember his name. I think it's Cade or something. Cam. I can't remember right off the top of my head. I mean, I know that doesn't sound great because I don't remember the main character's name, but names weren't really being thrown around in the movie. But he was great too. I felt like the relationship that they kind of established right off rip when he meets Marlon Wayne's Isaiah White was great. I thought that their chemistry was really good. You know, he gets an injury. It's not really a spoiler. It's kind of hinted at in the trailer, but essentially he gets a hit in the head. He gets a brain injury, and there's a lot of doubt about whether or not he's going to be able to make it to the league or go to the combine and do all this. So the team that Marlon Wayans is on goes and seeks out this character and basically is trying to bring him in and bring him to like his own like personal combine that he has at his house to kind of test him and see where he's at physically and everything. And their chemistry right off rip that they build, like it starts playing when he starts, you know, he gets there and he meets him. Seems a little weird. Like everyone is a little bit more obvious, right? That something shady is going on here, but the chemistry that they have right off rip, you could tell it kind of, if anyone has played football for a team at all at any stage, it kind of, the camaraderie and the brotherhood is right there, right off rip. And, you know, so their performances are really what works about the film, and they really feed off of one another, and they do a good job there. The soundtrack is fantastic. The first time that they get on the field and they start playing, they played Lemonade by Gucci Mane, and I was in that theater kind of dancing in the background, and so were other people. So the soundtrack overall, like if you just go on Apple Music and pull out the soundtrack, it's great. It's got a great soundtrack. But just what works well about this movie to me and why I enjoyed it is just like the overall style and the theme that they went with here. The way it's shot is like just gorgeous, and it uses when they're playing football like X-ray vision in a certain way to kind of like show you the damage that's happening to these characters. And it was just a very unique way to shoot a film, and especially a sports film. Which I mean, this is, and there's not really like an official game that they play in the game or in the movie, but this is essentially a sports horror, and like that, the novelty of that, because I don't think we've ever got anything like that before. The novelty of it being a sports-centered horror film was just so unique to me, and like I said before, the commentary and everything that they talk about with like what you're willing to do and what you're willing to sacrifice to be the best and to achieve your dreams and to go all out. I just like those themes. Like, and we can kind of segue that into the negatives. I don't think that it gets any deeper than that. Like, that's kind of where, when it comes to the themes, they go is just like, what are you willing to do? And, you know, people can bait and kind of guess what it ends up leading to, where we go in the film. But it doesn't get deeper than that. And then, so that is kind of a negative for me. I feel like some of the issues that they bring up in the movie could have been explored a little bit better. And I've heard that criticism too from people who didn't really enjoy the movie. So I felt like those were valid, right? I feel like that it could have went deeper than it did. I feel like it felt like it was a little bit smarter than it was. But overall, I still had a fun time with the film. I can't say I didn't. The performances were good. The horror aspect and cult aspects that they bring into the film, I felt like worked really well. The soundtrack was great. The style of the film was great. And I don't know. I feel like people were just giving it too much of, too much shit. I don't think it was as bad. I don't know if it was the whole Jordan Peele thing, because like I feel like there was mass confusion out there that this movie was made by Jordan Peele, and it was not. And I feel like people had the expectation of what they normally would going into a Jordan Peele film. So when it wasn't, and it wasn't up to that level, people were disappointed. I will say though, out of all of Jordan Peele's films, this movie's better than Nope. I hated Nope. I was not a fan of Nope. That was easily his weakest film to me. But this film, I think, if it was a Jordan Peele film, this would have been better than Nope to me. Hey, I know I'm probably on an island with that, but It's just how I felt. And maybe it was because everybody was shitting on it before going into the film, and everybody was, complaining about it, that I was just like, okay, this is going to be a dog shit movie. And then I was pleasantly surprised, and I thought, it wasn't bad. Um, the symbolism too in this movie. Okay, this is a negative, so I'll get into this. The symbolism in this movie was fucking terrible. It was over the top. Like everything was like so blatantly right in your face and so obvious of like what they were trying to tell you. What these characters represented. So I feel like it could have been dialed back a little bit, but yeah, man. Overall, I had a fun time with the film. I don't think that it's as bad as people say. I would definitely recommend you check it out for yourself, because I have seen, like, after that initial wave of reviews where everyone was kind of shitting on it, I've seen people come around to it a little bit and say, hey, actually, it wasn't as bad as people tried to make it out to be. So I would just recommend seeing it on your own, doing your, giving it a chance, right, and see how you like it. You might not, but you might. I did. I thought it was unique, and I thought it offered something that we haven't seen before. So, that is what I think of him. So we're going to move on to the third film, which, again, I also think I disagree slightly with the masses on, and that is The Strangers Chapter 2, which really at this point has become quite a popular franchise at this point. But I need to give my backstory on the franchise as a whole. Obviously, the first Strangers, was a phenomenon when it came out. I was only 13 when it came out, and at the time, it absolutely scared the bejesus out of me. That was just the whole concept of that film. The strangers just being random people who show up to someone's house and kill them, and only because of the concept of the fact that they were home, and that's it. There's no motive. There's no nothing. That alone terrified me as a child. Now, I will say, when the sequel finally came out, I want to say, I don't remember what year it was. I think it was like 10 years later in 2018, Strangers Pray at Night. I revisited it, and it is much worse than I remember. I will say, I think it scared me a little bit more just because I was younger and I didn't have a tolerance for horror like I do now. Because even rewatching it a couple years ago before Chapter 1 came out, I thought it was terrible. I thought the characters were stupid. I thought that the tension scenes at the beginning were nice, but then once you kind of get the strangers in pursuit of the people, the tension kind of wasn't as good as it was. I thought the acting was not great. So that original film, to me, has kind of aged poorly, and I am not as high on it. The Strangers Pray at Night came out, though, and I actually think that's the best film of the franchise so far. Because of the like 80s aesthetic that it had, because of the fact that it was just a like full-fledged slasher film. It didn't do the slow build like how the first one did. I think the characters are even more fucking stupid in Pray at Night, which is like a recurring theme in all these films, is that the characters just make the absolute dumbest decisions that you could possibly think of. So, that part of it, I don't think goes away in any of these sequels. And then obviously now we have this new trilogy that was filmed back to back, which very unique. We don't see that in modern filmmaking nowadays. And the whole concept of this trilogy so far seems to be, what is the backstory of the strangers? And like I said with the original film, I feel like that completely defeats the purpose of what we got in that first film. I think what works about the strangers is that it's all random, and it could be anyone who gets affected by these people. So when you kind of try to implement a backstory and a why, I think that takes away a lot. And that is what I hated very much about Chapter 1, is that in Chapter 1, we basically did a shot-for-shot remake of the original, which right there, you're already a cheap knockoff. It isn't going to work. And then you're adding in these elements of backstory and background and, why the strangers are the way they are. Who's Tamara? Like, these are not questions that I think anyone who even liked these movies were ever having. So it kind of felt pointless, right? But in my mind, I thought to myself, okay, you know what? Let's give it a chance. in 2 and 3, they're not going to be remaking the original movie again. So we're going to get some original ideas. So let's give it a chance. Let's go in with an open mind and kind of, just give it a shot. So I went to go see The Strangers Chapter 2 and expecting to hate it. It premiered early at Fantastic Fest a couple days before it actually released, so it was getting destroyed when it came to reviews. I was fully expecting to go in and hate the movie. And I gotta say, it's a bad movie. It's not good. But I don't think it's as much of a train wreck as a lot of people are kind of making it seem like. So I kind of want to talk about what worked about the film for me, and then we'll go into the negatives. Madeline Pesh, the main girl in this new trilogy of films, she's great. I think she's a very good final girl. She doesn't give like damsel in distress vibes or anything like that. She can hold her own. She gives a great performance. She's easily the best thing about these two movies so far. She's the only character that actually is trying to act and be a normal human being when she is acting, which we'll get into that in a little bit. But I think overall, she is the thing that works the best about this film for me. Her performance, the way she conveys fear and being scared, I think works really, really well. And she holds it together for me. She's kind of the glue, right? That works about everything. This is essentially a 90-minute chase film. It kind of picks up exactly where we left off at chapter 1. So it's pretty much just 90 minutes of her on the run from the strangers and them coming after her, which in theory I thought would be a cool concept, but doesn't necessarily fully work. But we'll get into that in a minute. I thought that the atmosphere that they build here, because a lot of this movie takes place in the woods, so the atmosphere that they built here was a lot more creepy to me than what we had in the cabin in the first one, which again, just a complete direct remake, shot-for-shot remake that we got of the original film. So I thought that worked really, really well for me. And then some of the kills worked pretty well. I thought we got a little bit more gore than we did in the first film, which, when I come to a slasher film, I want to see some gnarly kills. That's why I'm here. So, I felt like that worked a little bit better than what we got in Strangers Chapter 1. And I got to say, the thing about this trilogy that I was not a fan of going into it kind of worked a little bit for me here. I kind of liked some of the backstory that we got on the Strangers. Now, I know I've seen people say that that's like one of the worst things about this movie to them, but it kind of worked for me. I kind of enjoyed when they were doing that and they were showing us what was going on and everything. And I feel like the big reveal that's going to happen in Chapter 3 is like so telegraphed and so blatantly obvious that it's like everybody in this town is a stranger and in a cult and the sheriff's involved and everything like that. The specifics, not so much. And then they did tease something in the end credit scenes about that really kind of gave, I had some intrigue after seeing it. I was like, ooh, okay. If they go there, I might be all right with this. So I enjoyed that part of it. I thought it worked a little better than I would have expected. I was dreading when we finally got there and they started to reveal some of the backstory. Excuse me. Ooh, jeez. Of the strangers. And I feel like once we got there, I actually did enjoy some of it. I thought it worked. It wasn't anything super great, but, wasn't as bad as the last film. And maybe that's what it was. I went into this film with very low expectations based off of the last film, based off of reviews. And maybe that's just why I had a little bit of a better time with this than I expected. But I will go into, what I felt like didn't work about the film. Hold on a second. Right off rip, there is a scene in this film halfway through the movie. And if you've seen the movie, or if anyone's watching that has seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm about to talk about. There's a scene in this film that's like halfway through that felt like it was a completely different film. Genuinely. This scene started, and I thought I was watching a different movie. I thought they changed the movie, and something happened in the theater, and something got messed up, and I was not watching The Strangers Chapter 2 anymore. So that was definitely, it took me out of the movie pretty significantly. It was a cool scene. It was a cool sequence. And it was definitely like an interesting choice to do something like that in the movie, but it didn't fit. It just like, I was baffled that they decided like, hey, we're going to change it up and we're going to do something like so off the wall that you're going to be just shocked because they actually went that direction. So yeah, so there's that. Definitely very odd scene in the middle of the movie. A lot of the movie is predictable. It's very cliche in what happens. It's very repetitive. Like I said, it's a 90-minute chase. So in some of the action sequences, you get a little bored. It gets a little stale. And you kind of just want it to go back to something else because it's just repeating itself over and over and over again. So, that was definitely something that I didn't enjoy about it. It was like, yeah, a scene would start off good, there'd be a good chase sequence, but then it would just keep going and it wouldn't end. And some of the editing in the film didn't make any sense. They would show things in one way, and then the way it just happened, or the way that the main character would escape, just didn't make any sense. And I know this movie was reshot because technically these were all filmed back to back, all three films, and they were supposed to come out really quickly. But we had to wait over a year for part two. So I wonder if like some of those inconsistent shots had to do with that and the way they edited it and put it back together. But it just most of the time did not work for me. And then also I feel like the pacing because of that was not great. And then too, like, even though I liked what they gave us somewhat with the backstory, the pacing of it and adding them randomly, like the flashbacks randomly into the film, threw it off. Like it was just so weird. And in some instances, I kind of feel like it needed to do that because I felt like I was getting bored with just chase sequence after chase sequence. But then also too, it just felt really out of place. So I don't know what they were kind of going there with some of the stuff. And the last thing I want to talk about is like the really bad acting supporting characters that are in this film. I mean, the writing is on the wall that the entire town are strangers, and it's because of the way these motherfuckers act. Like, she'll literally be like walking down the street and see a random person that she'll ask for help, and then they'll be like, "You need help? Is that really what you need? You need to go to a hospital or you'll die." And it's just like, guys, can you not act like, can you act like a normal human being? Like, you're acting like you're kidnapped and you have to fucking put on a show for somebody so they don't know you're kidnapped. So that, and that was an issue with chapter 1 too. So, I imagine it's probably going to be present in chapter 3 as well. But the acting from the side characters, like I said, I think the main girl is really good, but the side characters, the way they act is just like, Jesus Christ, guys, like, tone it down with the crazy eyes and the giving it away that you're a psychopath and you're going to kill her when you get the chance. Like, my God. Yeah, I know I probably spent more on the negatives than I did the positive with this film, but I will say I think it was better than chapter 1. And I think that they did set up some things in there for chapter 3 that I think, I don't know how great. I don't know what the ceiling really is at this point with these films. Probably not much. It could be interesting, though. They could put out something that at least is different from what we've gotten before with the franchise. I'm a little worried because it hasn't made really jack shit at the box office, that if it's probably not even going to get into theaters, it's probably just going to be released directly on streaming, which at this point I kind of prefer. I would rather it not get the buildup that it's been kind of getting with the first two films, just because, it's not doing great. So yeah, overall, bad movie. I'll admit it, but I didn't have a bad time with it, if that makes sense. I thought it was fun enough, and I'm a horror for some slashers, so for me, that works. Okay, so let's move on, and I gotta get a sip of something here before I start talking about this movie. So the last movie and the most recent movie I saw was one battle after another. And this is the new Paul Thomas Anderson film starring Leonardo DiCaprio. And, you know, I'll be honest, everyone's praising this film. It's bombing at the box office, but everyone's praising it. Everyone loves it, at least from what I've seen. A lot of people love it. I didn't love this movie. I actually didn't like it at all, to be honest with you. I'll start off with my positives just because I don't want to shit on it too bad. But my very first and main positive is the performance of Leonardo DiCaprio. Every time he's in a film, I feel like he does a great job. I feel like this was no different. I feel like he was genuinely hilarious in this movie. Like some like big laughs from me in some of the lines of dialogue. They released the clip of the scene where he's on the phone with the rebellion guy trying to get the rendezvous point for his daughter. And like just the whole way, if you haven't seen the movie, go look up that clip. The whole way that DiCaprio acts in that scene was just great. I've seen memes like, oh, when I call into customer service and all that, and I've just been kind of laughing at that. But he gives a great performance. I mean, at this point, he's on like a great run right now. Pretty much since 2013, he's been putting nothing but bangers out there. Like Don't Look Up and Revenant are probably his worst films in that time period. And like those aren't like garbage films or bad films, and he's good in them. But he's on like a really, really good run right now. He's doing a lot of great work. And the character, he's to me, why his performance works the most is because he's kind of the most level-headed person in the film. I've seen some people complain about that because he's supposed to be like the revolutionist in this movie, and I don't think that was the point of his character. I think, especially when his daughter is born, like he's supposed to be the level-headed guy, and I felt like he played that role very, very well. The other positive I have would be the direction. I think Paul Thomas Anderson, the way that this film is filmed and shot, it was gorgeous. I didn't even see it in IMAX. I know people have been posting like, photos of like the 70 millimeter IMAX screens that are, only 10 in the country or something. And the movie is beautifully shot. I can't even complain one bit about any frame of this film. It looks gorgeous, and the sound design's great. On a technical level, there is nothing wrong with this film. Like straight up, like when it comes to visuals, sound effect, acting, even dialogue, it's all on par, on point. It's all great. And then acting too, like Sean Penn gives a great performance as like the villain of this film. I thought he was great. I haven't seen him in really anything in a long time, so it was refreshing to see him give a great performance. He played a real scumbag of a person, so I enjoyed that from him, kind of seeing him in a different light. So overall, on a technical level, I think that everything really about this works. I think there's a lot of spectacle in this film. It is a mashup of genres. I think it's a comedy, it's a drama, it's an action film, and like the final sequence, there's like a car chase. I won't really say who's involved or what happens, but I felt like that was definitely a fantastic scene and edge of your seat stuff, and that worked really well for me. But really, for me, that's the only positive I have with the film. So we can kind of get into what I did not like. This is such an unfocused movie. Like, this movie is just all over the place and messy. I think it tries to tell you multiple different messages right off rip. Those messages, what they like initially are starting in the movie with is like undone and, could have been a little bit deeper, and we could have went in and had an actual powerful message from this film. But I feel like it was just all over the place. So it ends up not really saying all that much. Like, it says a lot, but it doesn't say anything effectively. And then a lot of it, when you can, get a message out there and get something that is poignant and, impactful, it's undercut by humor or it just doesn't take itself seriously. And I feel like that's what this movie did consistently. The political overtones too, like, are just like beating you over the head throughout the entire film. Every character in this movie is either an Antifa member or a fucking, I don't even know, white supremacist government leader. There's no in between. These are all the most like radical characters ever that you'll ever see in a film. And I thought that it could have been a great story and kind of told you how like radicalism on both sides was terrible, but it never went down that route. So I thought maybe it was going to go the other way and just like pick a side, and it pretty much did, right? Anyone who's watching it knows that it picked what side it picked politically in the film, but there's no like real consequence or like deeper meaning to any of it. It felt shallow to me. Like I know people are trying to, I've seen the reviews, I see what people are saying about it, but to me it just felt shallow. It didn't feel deep. It didn't feel like it really had much of anything to say. Like a lot of the complaints I heard about him where like, oh, it was really shallow. You thought it was smarter than it is. I think that's more fit for this film than it is for him, truthfully. Like, at least like him was trying to be stylish about it and was trying to let you know like, hey, this ain't really real. That's not what this movie did. And, a lot of the characters too that you're supposed to root for in the film are extremely unlikable. Like I can't remember her name. But the main lady, the mom, who has the baby, and she grows up and Leo raises her. They introduce her. She's only in the beginning of the film, and like she's one of the most unlikable characters you'll ever see. Genuinely, I'm like, this is supposed to be the person leading this revolution, and I just don't care. I don't care about the character. I don't care about what the cause is at this point. Which they didn't even really explain or show you all that much. They just basically say, oh, it's a fascist government who's doing all this terrible things, and then they show you, right, the military guy played by Sean Penn and like the powers that be, but they don't actually show you them doing horrible things. They just tell you that they're terrible. So I feel like this movie wanted to be deeper and have more meaning than it actually did. And it didn't do any of the legwork to actually get there. You know what I'm saying? Like it could have been great. It could have delivered a great message, but it didn't. It kind of just dipped its toes on each subject and didn't fully dive into it. And it did that for the sake of the comedy kind of tone and vibe to it, which again I enjoyed. I thought Leonardo DiCaprio really added to that, and Benicio del Toro too. Like his back and forth with Leo, I thought was great. And I thought his character, I liked. I feel like if they went a little bit more into his story, that would have benefited the movie. But I feel like when it comes to the story, they just did too much, and there was too much going on, and it wasn't focused enough, and I just couldn't get hooked. It just didn't work for me, and I don't know. I thought the story was all over the place. And then what was I going to say? Oh, length. I mean, the movie's way too fucking long. Oh my god, the movie's way too long. This movie was almost 3 hours, and I felt it. I was genuine, like I said, genuinely. I think the worst part of this film is like the first 30 to 45 minutes, and I think that after that it gets better. But I still feel like it was way too long. Could have been cut by 20 to 30 minutes easily, and I actually think it would have made the film a much more enjoyable experience because there was a lot of nonsense going on, a lot of scenes that I don't really feel like needed to be there. So that was a problem for me. The pacing, it was way too long, and that aspect of it just really did not work. So yeah, I mean, and again, I think it was just way too political. I think it beat you over the head with it, and it picked a side and didn't really explain what was going on and kind of some of the discourse that it's created. And I don't like getting into politics, but some of the discourse that it's created has just not been pleasant or an actual conversation. So it's one I'm probably going to stay away from after this, but I didn't really like this film. And I keep seeing people saying it's the best of the year and everything, and I just don't see it. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't think it was as good as people were saying. I think, like I said, on a filmmaking plane, it was great. There was a lot done right. It was shot beautifully. It looked good. It was acted well, but the story left a lot to be desired for me. And I don't know, maybe like I don't really want to watch this movie again, but maybe it is a movie that will be better on a rewatch. We'll see if I even give it another chance. But did not like it. Did not like it. So, okay. All the controversial takes from me today aside, because about 75% of my reviews there were not what a lot of people are saying. We're going to move on from the reviews, kind of get into some topics. First is going to be Peacemaker. We're going to talk about the most recent episode. Obviously, big reveals in the last episode. It was essentially revealed that the theory that we all had was correct, that the alternate dimension in Peacemaker is Earth X. It's a universe where essentially the Nazis won World War II, and there's no people of color that we know of. We're going to get into that in a second here. And I just love this episode a bunch. First, I loved that the whole crew from the original universe came in to try to rescue Chris from this universe. And then I love that Amelia Harcourt immediately picked up on that there was something wrong with the universe. I love that little nugget, because it kind of shows that Chris was just not. He was so stuck up in his own shit and his own happiness and what he wanted that he didn't realize that he's in a Nazi universe, essentially. So I thought that was really cool. I thought that the vigilante meeting himself dynamic was really awesome. And I don't know the guy's name. Freddie Stormare or something. I think that's his name, Freddie Stormare. He's great as vigilante. I feel like he's been kind of shafted this season. I think we could have got a lot more from him, and I wanted more from him so far this season, but I'm glad that he's kind of in part of this final stretch that we're working on here. And then, obviously then the big reveal happens where Economos and Adebios is in the universe, and she goes for a walk, and then people start seeing her and start pointing at her, and then you get Peacemaker's brother who drives up on her and gets out and says, "One got out, a black." I was like, holy shit, when that started happening. I thought that was crazy. The "one got out" phrase is the part that's the most terrifying, because where did she get out from? That is something that we need to find out, and I imagine we will in a couple days here in the new episode. But yeah, I got to say, overall, because I don't think I have talked about this show since the first episode. I think it was the last time I talked about it on the Scene and Screen podcast, was the first episode. And, I was a little bit like, on it. I didn't like the premiere episode. I thought it left a little bit to be desired. But what I will say about this season overall that I've really enjoyed so far is the actual use of the multiverse with this other dimension. To me, it's like the best way that it's been used in any Marvel or DC film, because it is a personal story that's being told with it. It's not just, oh, hey, look at who this is. And I, even like the shirt I'm wearing, like No Way Home, where I do feel like the multiverse characters were used effectively and to tell a personal story. This one just does it without having any of, like other characters to who we know to bring it up. So, and that's what I really liked. It's just other versions of the characters that we know, right? Like, yeah, there's Keith, and I think that dynamic is probably the most emotional part for Chris and for Peacemaker, because, he doesn't have his brother in his universe. So that emotional part of it, I think, works really well. And then the Harcourt angle, obviously, too. Like, Harcourt's a completely different woman in the alternate universe in Earth X. And I know he is in love with her, so he just kind of wants to live out in a world where, she loves him back. But he even says it in this episode that, like, she's not the same, as the Harcourt he loves. That scene between John Cena and Jennifer Holland in the interrogation room, wow, that was great. I know James Gunn had talked about, like, that's, like, his favorite scene of the season. And I know why, because that was a well-acted film, or a well-acted scene, and they both did a great job. And the emotions I felt emotional watching it, to be honest. And because it feels like it's 2 seasons worth of development for Chris and for Harcourt, kind of culminating all in one. So I really enjoyed what they did in this episode. And I will say so. I think overall, though, overall, the season has meandered a little bit. I definitely felt like we could have got a little bit more out of this season. There were some episodes that I think are significantly better than others. This, I think, was the best episode that we got so far. But the pace and the revealing of the story hasn't really been there the entire time. So, we'll see. I definitely think that, we're definitely in for a great couple episodes to finish off the season. I forgot to mention the Lex cameo. Nicholas Hoult coming back as Lex Luthor and getting like an R-rated Lex Luthor. Talking about someone butt fucking someone in jail. That was great, and it was a nice change of pace to not see Lex in like the PG-13 Superman setting. So I really like that. So yeah, I'm excited, and I really want to see where we're going here, and see how if they can land the plane at the end and give us a satisfying conclusion to the season, and then kind of where the DCU goes from there. And then also too, I thought it was funny because I did just see the news article about how essentially Fortnite is disabling the Peacemaker dance that they do. From this season, from the intro of the show, and they're disabling it because they didn't realize that like the whole move was supposed to be for a Nazi symbol, where they were kind of giving it to you right off the gate as to what was going on there. So kind of crazy. I guess they're saying they're going to issue refunds if it doesn't come back, and they figure out like what is the actual meaning of it. I thought that was kind of crazy. So yeah. But overall, yeah, Peacemaker, I've been having a good time with it. I wish the beginning and the middle portion of the season was a little bit better, but I think we're at a good point right now, and we got the best episode of the season so far last week, and I imagine we're going to keep up that momentum in these last two episodes. So we're going to move on here. I didn't realize I've already been going 50 minutes, so I'm going to kind of speed through some of these. Obviously, future of the DCU. We're kind of playing out with Peacemaker right now. We got Supergirl coming out next year. And then James Gunn did announce that the Superman sequel, titled Man of Tomorrow, is coming out in July of 2027, I want to say. Yes, July 9th of 2027. We're getting Man of Tomorrow. And he released a picture of Superman with Lex Luthor in his exosuit. So people have theorized kind of where we're going with the film, and that it's going to be a team-up movie more so than, them being villains and enemies. So I think that's very interesting. I know the long-standing rumor is that it's probably going to be Brainiac as the villain, which, Soup and Lex having to team up to take on Brainiac, that definitely interests me. I imagine too, Supergirl and Crypto are probably going to be involved with the film as well. I do feel like so far the DCU is off to a good start. It's not perfect. I don't think so. But the MCU wasn't perfect either right off rip. And I'm very excited about where we're going here. I like David Corenswet as Superman. I like all the casting here. I am very curious, though, to see kind of where the DCU goes forward in non-James Gunn projects, because so far everything that we've gotten has been James Gunn heavily being at the head of creator when it comes to directing and writing. So I'm very curious to see if this universe can work as well without him, and not without him in general, obviously, because he's the CEO, but without him in the director's chair or writing the scripts. So I'm very interested to see how Supergirl turns out. I know we got Clayface and everything. And then obviously Matt Reeves is working on the Batman 2, which everyone who's involved is saying great things. So definitely can't wait for that. So yeah, I'm curious to see where we go from here, what the DCU is going to offer us. I'm glad that we're at a point in time where the DCU seems to be doing well. And I love that. And I'm excited about it. Especially at a time where we kind of need them to pick up the slack, because Marvel's lacking a little bit. They're starting to pick it up too. So I'm hoping that both of them are kind of going to start crescendoing here soon, and we can get a healthy competition between Marvel and DC. Not a toxic one like most people want to do online. Let's not do that. I would really want to avoid that. So let's move on. Um, Two other movies I got to see during this time off that I had were the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. I saw the first one, and then I went and saw 2.1. So I did like back-to-back days at the theater to see that. So far, it is looking like it's been reported that it earned $2.25 million in the re-release, which I think is good because realistically, every theater I saw that was showing it only had one or two screenings. So it wasn't like it was a full-fledged release, and then obviously it was only for the 3 days. They're not in theaters right now. I know they're coming back again next weekend. Same thing. 1 on Friday, 2.1 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday. But I will say for me, like the theater experience of seeing the first one on Friday was one of the best theater experiences I've ever had. I have not seen this movie in theaters since I was a kid, and I saw it for the first time. I was like 6 at the time. That was the last time I saw this movie in theaters, and I missed because I know they did a re-release for like Sony's 100th birthday or whatever. But at the time, my youngest daughter was born, so I wasn't able to go, so I missed it. So this is literally my first time seeing these movies in theaters. Since I was a kid. And that first night, like seeing Spider-Man 1 that first night, magical. I loved seeing it on the big screen. Seeing it in like updated 4K with updated stereo and audio was great. I really, really had a good time. Everyone was clapping, everyone was cheering, everyone was excited. And it was just a really, really fun time. Spider-Man 2.1 the night after was fun too. There was a lot of interactions and everything. I had never seen Spider-Man 2.1 before. I've only ever seen the theatrical version. I've heard, and I've read kind of what the changes were in Spider-Man 2.1 to 2. And I will say I'm not as big of a fan on 2.1 as I am of 2. I feel like some of the scenes were bloated and things were extended a little bit too much for me. I kind of like the simplicity and the matching the high energy that the theatrical version does with the original. But a lot of 2.1, the scenes they add in were in the first half of the film. So I think when you get into the middle and the back half, it's still amazing, amazing stuff. And then obviously that second one is like technically superior on every level. I mean, I love both of those movies, man. Those are just like timeless classics to me. As much as I love No Way Home, as much as I love the Andrew Garfield movies, there's just something about those first two films that will always mean so much to me and be so special. And obviously it's for a lot of people too, because those theaters were sold out when I went. I couldn't believe how many people were there. I was like, this is insane. This is a Fathom event, so you couldn't even use like a AMC A-List or a Regal Unlimited to get into these things. You had to pay full price for the tickets. I had to pay $13 to go see this each night, and this was sold out. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, I wholeheartedly in my heart of hearts believe that if they decided to do a Spider-Man 4, bring back Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire, the whole cast, it would do gangbusters numbers. Like it would do so good. And it was just I'm starting to get to that age now where I have my classic films, right? So I love going to re-releases. I'm actually doing another one. I'm going on Sunday. I was going to see Spider-Man 3, but I'm kind of probably going to just skip out on it. I'm going to go see Scream because my Regal is doing like every day they release a new horror re-release, and they're doing Scream on Sunday. So I'm going to go see the original Scream because that's another one that I never actually got to see in theaters. So I think that'll kind of be like a surreal experience for me. I'm starting to enjoy re-releases a little bit more, just giving the opportunity to see some of my favorite classic movies on the big screen. It's a great time. And then, because then when you go too, it's a bunch of other fans of the film. So it just provides a really fun experience and one I enjoy doing. So I'm definitely looking forward to doing that more. So let's move on. I'm kind of going to speed run through a few of these and then, I'm going to speed run through a few of these, and then I am going to talk about one a little bit more lengthy. Brand new day. I know there was some news about how Tom Holland got a concussion doing a stunt, which, prayers up for Big Tom. I'm glad he's okay. I think they said he was back, so we're good now. We're in the clear. They're filming again. So big ups to Big Tom. Glad he's okay. I'm glad everything's working out. And filming seems to be going good. I know that they just had a casting announcement. They finally casted the villain. I don't know if he's going to be the main villain, but he is one of the villains, and that was Tombstone, who's going to be played by Marvin Jones III. And I didn't even realize this after he was cast. I saw in the comments section say he's actually the guy who voiced Tombstone in the Into the Spider-Verse movies, which I thought was really cool. I like when they kind of do stuff like that, where they bring back people who've already played the role, maybe in a different medium. Because to me, if you've already proved that you can do it, even if it's like through animation or voice work, like bring them back, do live action. I'm one of the guys that, they're doing this God of War series, and I'm like, dude, just get the guy who freaking voiced Kratos. We could put makeup on him. We can make him look different. The guy's got the voice. He could kill it. So I'm very excited about that. I'm very much looking forward to Brand New Day. Obviously, the big casting announcements, it's going to be Punisher, Hulk, Spider-Man movie. There's a lot of rumors going on, and I don't know if anyone else has seen them about how they're going to basically introduce that Hulk is the person who, by accident killed Peter Parker's parents in the first Avengers movie. I think that's very interesting. If that's the route they're going to go, that's going to definitely create for a very tension-filled dynamic. And I think, I kind of tend to believe it because I feel like that is a good enough reason to get Spider-Man to team up with Punisher. Because that's my whole thing, is it's like the philosophies of Peter Parker and Frank Castle are so polar opposite that how are they going to give us a believable reason that he would team up with Punisher? And I hear that, and I'm like, about him, Hulk killing his parents, and I'm like, ooh, them teaming up to stop Hulk because he's got like an actual personal vendetta. That sounds like a good idea. Now, obviously, it's going to take some retconning because I feel like that was definitely would have been something that should have came up at this point. But, whatever. I don't even know how many movies in the MCU we're at this point. It's like 45. So whatever. We're going to have to kind of just stretch believability a little bit there. It is what it is. But yeah, I'm very excited for this film. Like I said, I think good casting announcement with Tombstone. Glad Tom's okay. Glad he's going to be able to continue, and we're not going to have to delay or anything like that from this. So I'm excited. So I'm going to move on here. They announced that a Miami Vice reboot is happening. It's going to be by Joseph Kosinski. He's going to be, I think he's writing and directing. I could be wrong on that. But he's the guy who did F1 and Top Gun Maverick, and I feel like he's on a hot streak right now. Obviously, both those films were fantastic. And so far, the rumor is essentially that Glenn Powell and Michael B. Jordan are in talks to star, which, I am very much on board with that. I think they're two of the best actors right now in Hollywood. Younger guys, too, right? Who resonate a little more with the younger generation. So I think this is a good way to bring back Miami Vice and to bring it into a new era. I'll be honest, I've never watched Miami Vice, so I don't really know anything about it. I couldn't tell you. I think I might have saw the 2006 movie I think it was with Jamie Foxx and Colin Farrell, forever ago. I don't remember. I couldn't tell you a thing about it. I'll be honest, I couldn't tell you a thing about it. So this is not a franchise. If I go to watch this, this is not something that I'm going to go in really with much predisposition to expectations because I just don't know much about it. So really, it's just going to be the trailer. Is the trailer going to excite me? And if it is, with these two actors, I'm for sure going to go see it if it looks good. So like I said, I kind of want to touch base on that. Nothing to really add too much besides that, hey, I'm excited about who's coming in, and we'll see what they do. So The Simpsons 2 was announced, which kind of was surprising to me. The first movie came out in 2007 when I was 12 years old. So the fact that 20 years later, because it's slated to release July 23rd, we're going to get another Simpsons movie is interesting. Am I super excited? Not really. I don't watch The Simpsons. I never really have. I did like the movie when I was a kid. The Spider Pig song was one thing that really like was iconic from that, and one that kind of stuck with me. So I don't know how to feel about this announcement. I know there's other people who've been a lot more excited for it than I have, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really know how to feel about that one. That one's kind of just like, we'll see. I'm gonna see it, right? Obviously, I mean, I'm definitely gonna see it and review it and everything like that. But it's not one that I'm jumping for joy about. Like, we'll be okay. So yeah, just wanted to give quick thoughts on that. Last thing, and the one that I'm going to talk about a little bit more, the Insomniac Wolverine game. We obviously got the first trailer at PlayStation's State of Play, and wow, that trailer was just fucking magnificent. I loved every second of it. The brutality, what it looks like, the combos that you're going to be able to hit with Wolverine, the blood, the gore, the different settings, because it looks like it's going to be in Madripoor, in Japan, in Canada, I think. I don't know. I don't really know. I'm not familiar with the locations that they showed, but I have seen other people say that there's going to be multiple different locations that are kind of based off of Wolverine in the comics that they're going to hit. So I'm excited. I loved everything that they gave us about the trailer. I want to say suck it to all the people who saw the leaks and were shitting on the game for 3 years. I mean, what happened with those Insomniac leaks is one of the most that's one of the biggest leaks we've ever gotten in gaming history. And you had people out there saying that the game looked like shit when it was like early versions of the game. Like, it was never going to look like that. Like the ones that were really ugly and looked like they were PS2 graphics. The game was never going to look like that once it was released. It never would have happened. So all those people who were complaining about it, suck it. It looks so good. I don't want to hear anything about you playing it or enjoying it. No, I'm kidding. Everyone can go enjoy it, but I just didn't understand. And I knew that was going to be the case. I knew the moment that we got real footage of this game, it was going to blow everyone away. And I love the costume design too. The yellow and blue that they showed. I was a little skeptical in some of the leaks, but I didn't really, again, take it too seriously because I knew it wasn't polished or finished. But I loved how the suit looked. I thought it was great. I thought it worked really well. And I'm so excited for this game. 2026 for gaming is going to be nuts. With GTA 6, I don't even remember. There was a whole list I read the other day, and I'm like, that's all coming out in 2026. I'm like, this is finally going to be the first great year in this PS5, Xbox. What is it? I don't even know what the Series X. This whole generation, this is going to be the craziest year of this generation of console and of gaming. So I am very excited. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I'm glad that we got some real footage of this game, and it's not what was leaked, and it was not obviously unfinished because it's a trailer. They're not going to do that. Obviously, we got Mystique too. I wonder if like how we got those MJ missions in Spider-Man, we're going to get Mystique. You're going to get a couple missions where you play as her in the game. I thought that was awesome, and I think if they do that, I'll be very intrigued. And maybe it'll set up something with the X-Men in the future, which would be very exciting. I would love. And Insomniac right now is killing the superhero video game section. Those Spider-Man games, I absolutely adore those. I know that Spider-Man 2 has some haters for some reason, but I still think those games are great. And then this just looks like it's going to be a fantastic time. So bloody, so gory. It's going to have that R-rated Wolverine edge to it. And genuinely, I can't wait. I'm very much looking forward to it, and I'm excited. So that's really all I got today, guys. Like I said, this is kind of how I want to start doing stuff now, is kind of going on live and just talking about a whole bunch of stuff, and going from there. I just to kind of streamline my content. I don't want to be doing stuff every day of the week. My life isn't really structured to be able to do that. I'm going to do it on here. I'll post clips and stuff like that on TikTok. So if you don't want to watch, obviously, the whole show, you'll still be able to get a taste of what I'm doing. Obviously, I'm still going to go on Council of Creators. I'm going on tomorrow night. So, over on Shane's House channel. Go ahead and subscribe to him if you haven't already. I'll be on there tomorrow, and I plan on going on there whenever he wants me, pretty much. So, I'll still be doing stuff like that, but I'm going to try to consistently start being on this channel and doing a live show every week. Ronell, Mr. 180, was supposed to be here today, but he had something come up, so he couldn't make it. So I am planning on having him next week. And I'm going to try to get it to where I can hopefully at least have someone for a portion of the show, maybe not like the entire show. But, I don't always want to just do it by myself. Obviously, it was a new adventure for me to do this today, and, I enjoyed it. So, yeah, just looking forward to keep doing this and everything like that, and talking movies, because I love talking movies. That's the one thing. Even if I get burnt out in life, I always enjoy talking movies and anything entertainment-wise, video games, movies, UFC, TV, any of it. I always enjoy talking about it, and I'm going to keep doing it. So, thank you for anyone who's watching, whether it's live or on the replay. And, yeah, so everyone, it's great first show on my own. Everyone have a great night. I'm going to get out of here. Take care.